Hello and welcome to BB Uncovered. I'll be your host for today's episode. My name is Oluwatosin or Jebisi. Today I have with me a legendary writer, Mr. Dotun Adekanmbi. He's also authored the biography of Dr. Biodun Shobanjo. A warm welcome to you, Mr. Dotun. It's a
Thank you very
pleasure
much.
to have you here with us.
Same here.
All right, so let's dive into this
Okay.
wonderful, amazing story of BB,
Okay.
right? Would like to know, what is the story behind how you first met BB?
Oh, well, the story itself, as we say in journalism, there's always a story behind a story.
Of course.
The story of my having to meet BB stemmed from the point at which I started out my career in advertising. And, the agency where I worked, we had so many stories about Dr. Shobanjo. You would have thought that he was taller than the Nitel building and all of that. So one would have thought that there would be sources where one could pick information on him. But I didn't find any. And then I went to the University of Lagos for my postgraduate studies. And all of a sudden, on a fine day like that, I just said to myself, this Mr. Biodun Shobanjo, who is he? What is he about? And all of that. So I wrote him a letter. And I said, I've heard so much about you, this and that and that. How come there is no book about you? I kept the letter for a while because this was the age of Nine Post.
Oh.
Then P&T, I think. And the letter was delayed with me. And later I sent it. I was shocked when I got a reply. And that I later discovered was one thing about Mr. Shobanjo. His communication is perfect, so to speak. He responded to my communication, and I was shocked. And he was even apologetic because he looked at the date of the letter and then the date in which he responded. So he thought that maybe in his office the letter had stayed too long. And he said, please, I intend writing this book, but I just don't have the time. So we left it at that. About a whole year after I left Unilag, I was just cleaning up my place and I saw that response. And I said, this man said he didn't have the time. So I now did the proposal and I sent it to him. And I said, you have the achievement, you have the story, I have the time. So let's do it. I never thought he would reply again. He did. And he said, I should see him. I went to see him. And that meeting lasted, I think, about 5 minutes.
Oh, wow.
Just 5 minutes. As the relationship grew, I knew that all it takes for me, Dr. Shobanjo now, to decide whether he wants to continue a conversation with you or not is just 5 minutes. In 5 minutes, if you don't make an impression, you're out. And that holds true for all his things. And so we got the book started. At that point in time, I had not written a paragraph about myself, not to talk of a known figure. But I don't know how to explain it. I think it was just providential that a no-name person will write the story of somebody that is so high up there. I think that just summarizes the meeting. But the key point that I learned out of that interaction is that you really must be sure of yourself, what you want to do, and then know how to go about it. And I will say this. In the course of that discussion, his PA, Mrs. Gloria Omorige, asked me a question. I didn't know where that question will ultimately lead. Mrs. Omorige asked me, she said, Dotun, do you think you can do this thing? And I said to her, yes. Yes got me into a lot of trouble in terms of the quality of what eventually became this book. But I'll explain later.
We can't wait to hear. I mean, reading the excerpt of this book here, it's an avalanche of information. There is a lot of stories.
Okay.
Yeah. Would you be able to tell us one memorable story from this book?
There are too many stories around Mr. Shobanjo. So where exactly would you want me to start the story?
From the beginning, from anywhere you believe, just one thing that is very striking that you want readers or potential readers to, to be inspired by?
Well, if we look at it from the point of view of starting out in life, he started out a little bit disadvantaged in the sense that I think he was 15 years old when he lost his dad. And his dad was a whole lot of pillar of support for him. And at that point in time, that was when the turnaround came for him, because prior to that, he was just a regular student going to school and all of that. And then he lost his dad. Incidentally, okay, maybe now this is the story of what brought on the change in him. Whilst he was in school, he went to, what's it called? The Odogbolu Grammar School. In his second year, he went to attend this festival in the town. And in the process of, the excitement of participating in a festival, he danced, he sang and everything, and then he fell in a ditch. And then he had this abrasion on his foot. He didn't think it was anything extraordinary. And incidentally, that thing festered. He landed in hospital. And of course, it affected his results, such that he was promoted on trial from Form 2 to Form 3.
Wow.
By the time the results came, his father was dead. So
Sad.
his uncle gave him a piece of his tongue now or mind, telling him, what kind of nonsense have you done? We sent you to school. Now, here you are trying to mess up. How is that to be heard of? So that moment, a change came about. And that was when he realized that to stay ahead, you need to first of all think about yourself and then see what you can make of yourself. That determination at that point in time. Yeah.
All right. From just putting together this book and writing it, being
Yes.
the author, what's something you admire about BB?
There are too many things to admire about him. Do you want to talk about timeliness, punctuality? Do you want to talk about knowledge? Do you want to talk about even being a role model to so many people? The power of focus, the power of staying committed to your dream, the power of being able to inspire other people, such that if you were to take a look at the marketing communication scene in Nigeria, you'll find that there is hardly any agency worth its name that does not, at one point or the other, have a graduate of Insight. That is the agency that gave birth to the conglomerate known as Troika. So when you look at him, he came as a total package, and he is still a total package. Any part of him, you learn one thing or the other.
Okay, absolutely. Away now from the book,
Yes.
you have had experiences, professional experiences, working with him, working closely with him. So could you share a bit of those experiences, working with him at Quadrant? What are those experiences like?
Well,
And what are some of his principles?
one of the key things I learned from him is that the leader is not always the first to speak. Because once the leader speaks, every other person queues behind him. And then beyond that, and which was something he grafted in us all, is that if you are sure of yourself, and being sure of yourself can only come from the point of knowledge,
Of course.
that if you know what you are about, there's nobody on earth that can threaten you.
Absolutely.
You only need to validate yourself. And then, there's this positive thinkers creed that if you can dream it
You can
and
do it.
believe it, you can do it. And then I think the former U.S. Secretary of State, General Colin Powell, said, you never know what you can get away with until you try.
Absolutely.
Shobanjo, the man, the professional, the father, the total man, once he locks to a vision until he sees it to its logical conclusion, you can't prize him away from it. And it takes a whole lot of... He's not one that keeps changing the goalpost each time. Some people will say, okay, I want to move from point A to point B. When it seems like they come against a certain challenge, they tend to back off and say, okay, maybe this is not the way it was supposed to be. But the thing you learn from him the most is that do that which you know best to do. In the course of building Insight, and by extension, the Troika Group, in every business, there will be a time when things will be on the low. Mm-hmm. So when they experience that kind of thing, what did they do? They said, okay, as people say, just one road does not lead to the market. Yeah. So you try this, you try that, and see if it works. In the life of Insight, they tried something along that line, which was that, okay, if we needed to generate more revenue and this thing is not coming from what we know how to do, let us veer into another sector. Mm-hmm. So they went into fishing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So when they bought a boat and all of that, and went as far as I think it's Akwa Ibom State, where they now started to try to catch fish and do all of that basically to supplement revenue to be able to run the agency. But what did they find out? They were not grounded in the business of fishing, and they found out early enough. Okay. So what did they do? You have to cut your loss and move on. They did exactly that and face the business that they knew how to do best. So what that is saying is that in life, when you come against obstacles, just maintain your focus, do what you know how to do, work with the best of people. Because if you say that as the leader, you are the one that knows everything, in no time, the boat will, when it comes against heavy storm, the boat will, there's a possibility that the boss, you could sink the boat. Because the moment you say, this is the way we want to go, and your people queue behind you, what they say, that if you are going the wrong way and you are checking your speedometer, you're just wasting your time. So if you crash the boat yourself, what are you going to do? So get the best of people to surround you and work with them, motivate them. Because at the end of the day, it is how well you're able to motivate your people that determine the extent to which you will go. So to that extent, he has knowledge, he has focus, and he's knowledgeable. And beyond that, he likes to take his shots at every point in time.
That's some amazing lessons. I mean, what I can hear is that Bibi is daring, he's a people person, and he likes to go the extra mile.
Yeah, sure.
That's a remarkable quality to have.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, you've spoken about your experience working closely with him. Something I also like you to share with us is what ticks him off.
Very easy. Don't know how to keep to time. Don't know what you are about. Dressing is a part of it. But the key thing is display ignorance and then be very combative about it. You are finished.
Wow.
You don't just get past him. And the moment he starts to tell you, excuse me, please know that you are off point. Recalibrate. So the moment you are able to do that and get your act together, you are safe with him. So what I'm saying essentially is that if you have the knowledge base, because we are in a knowledge economy, of course. If you have the knowledge base and you are willing to learn, because if you don't want to learn, you believe that what worked yesterday will work tomorrow, then you can't sit with him as captain of the boat. So knowledge, timekeeping, he doesn't care.
African time.
If there's no such thing as African time with him. Essentially, he sees this as an irresponsible person's time. So if you are a minute late, I think it will even be better for you to be 24 hours late.
Oh, okay.
Because he doesn't joke with his time. there was an incident where he had a client meeting with one of the foremost business people in Nigeria today. And they agreed they were going to meet at a certain time. They got to the office at that time, got to the man's office at that time. And the next thing was they waited, they said the person they are meeting is in a meeting, you know the way these things work. And they had to wait a bit longer. He couldn't stomach it. So what he did was he got up, wrote a message on his complimentary card, and then said they should give it to the person who was supposed to meet him. And he left. It didn't start with when he needed the business, but he had to respect himself first, because he went with his young colleagues. And the point he made in that is that, yes, you need the business, but that does not mean that you have to be disrespected.
Yeah.
So because he needed to respect himself, he got to the place on time. And when he felt that he was being disrespected as a professional, he had to take his leave. So it didn't happen at that point when he was starting up his own agency, or he didn't just start then. Even when he was a young executive at his old agency, that's Grant Agency, he had a meeting with the CEO of a client company. And he got there on time. He was kept waiting. And after some time, he left. Young client service personnel, I said. So he left. How many of today's practitioners can do that? They will feel that you have to stay glued there until you see that particular client. But he left. And then he got to the office. Not long after he got to the office, the contact person called to say that your person came, we didn't see him. And of course, his boss was furious. How could you have taken that kind of decision? You have a meeting, you left the place. And he said to his boss, I was not employed to go and wait in that person's office forever. That if he was waiting to see the man, and the man is not ready, was not ready to see him, then the next best thing to do was to return to his office and do some meaningful work.
Exactly.
So, and then the boss now called out to that person to say that this was what you did. And that person apologized. What did that say, long run? It is that despite being a professional, in fact, as a professional, sound professional, you just have to respect yourself over and above anything else. And thereafter, you can earn the respect by the knowledge that you display.
That is fantastic. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Now, outside the boardroom, professional setting, I'm sure you must have had one or two encounters with Baby. Can you just share one of those?
Oh, well, when I started working on the book project before I became an employee of Troika. And naturally, you would expect that business as usual and all of those things. But of course, having studied him for quite a while, I also knew that I had to respect myself. So the first thing I did was, as soon as I joined the group, I had to put a deliberate distance. Because a lot of people within the establishment will not understand why you have a kind of interesting relationship with the chief executive. Some will say that maybe you go there to go and gossip about other people or this or that or that. So there was a bit of deliberate distancing. But for me, what was interesting was that, one, he recognizes talent and he uses talent to achieve whatever he wants to achieve. So, got into Quadrant. He believed that we were doing well in Quadrant, but that we could do a whole lot better than we did at that point in time. And, one of the things he used to say is that, look, I think there was a year in which we pitched 6 businesses, and we won 5. The 6th one that we lost was not executed by the client. And then on the day we were told that we lost that pitch, you would have thought that we were bereaved in that agency. And then BB said to us, Bibi said to us, you are too cocky, that you have the firepower and all of that. So what that was saying is that know your limit, do what you have to do, and then do it well so that things will fall in place for you. But over and above anything, outside of that, is that, well, if I remember very well, and this is personal, when we had a management meeting, and he said, he's always looked at me as someone who is, well, introverted, for a PR person, introverted and all of that. And he said, I can bet that Dotun does not know two clubs in Lagos. And I told him I knew more than 2 clubs in Lagos now. He said, do you name them? And I said, RCCG, that's Redeemed Christian Church, and Deeper Life. And he was like, what's the meaning of that? But it was all part of building relationships. Mm-hmm. But for me, what is important is that ability for him to lead his group and lead well. You'll find that the group is it's more or less on autopilot. Mm. And that's because he deliberately built leaders. So you don't have to look up to him to be able to do anything. He doesn't micromanage. Oh. So that's why most of the time what you find on his table are just files that needing signature, not critical. The things that get to his table that gets his attention the most are things that are really critical and beyond the ken of those who he has chosen to manage the business. So he picks his people very well, and the people perform very well to expectation.
Awesome. Do you think Bibi is extroverted? Well, I mean, you are introverted. You just
Me,
mentioned.
I'm introverted. It depends. Bibi is a bit of a complex character in the sense that what you see, he looks somewhat aggressive. People believe that he's hard, he's made of stone, wood, iron, anything that you can't bend. But forget it. He's one of the softest human beings that you can come across. I think, and this is what some of us believe, that he looks hard just so that people will think he's really, really hard. When he was this Apprentice Africa, the Apprentice. Yeah. And he was chairman. We saw the what do they call this thing now? The billboards and everything. And he was looking so menacing and everything. And then I said to him, Chairman, what we see on these boards, on these advert boards, they're not the things that we see here. You look so mean and all of that, but we don't see you that way. Yeah. But be careful. If he jokes with you from 6 a.m. to 5:59 a.m. the following morning, if you stepped out of tune professionally, you're a goner. He will tell you off. He won't mince his words at all.
Amazing. I mean, away from that now, let's talk about his legacy. What legacy has he left behind that has inspired you?
Excellence over and above anything else. And for him, it has nothing to do with money, the way people think of money. If it had been money, he could have taken Troika into to the stock exchange and do public offer and all of that. But he did not travel via that route. Instead, he said he wanted to build for the future. And that is why you have Insight or the Troika Group. And now, what do they call the name of the group now? Yeah. That group is sustaining the name long into the future. Insight Redefini. It's taking that name way beyond how he started. I'm sure if you ask him if he thought he would get this far when he started the group in 1980, he'll probably have told you that, yes, he believes that he will get it far. But how far? It's been qualitatively far. And I think the industry recognizes that. And the globe, not just in Nigeria, across the globe, because he has the name before.
Awesome. Yeah. So, give us 3 words to describe Bibi.
3 words to describe Bibi. Well, too many. Well, excellence will be one. Role modeling will be one. sense of history will be another. I don't know if those are 3 words.
It's more than. All right. So we would like to quickly do something where you give a shout out to BB, birthday shout out now, and also one thing or certain things or probably a sentence that would remind people of BB and how we said it. Or something like BB once said, and you finish it up.
It's a bit tricky.
Something a lot of people will be able to relate with and say, oh, yeah, that's how he says it.
Well, now can I easily remember one like that? But one thing I know for sure is the fact that, he's going on 80. He's going on 80. He's still, to me, as active as when he started out as a young person. I don't see any diminution in the quality of who he has been. And what did he really say? That there are too many things. I can't easily put my finger on that. But one thing I just know is that when you are with him and you are talking with him within your 5-minute window and he's looking at you and all of that, the moment you are making sense, you will see it in his eyes. He has this tendency to make face somehow. And then, but if you are getting out of tune and he says, excuse me, please just know that you are completely derailing and you need to check yourself properly.
So how does he say it? Just excuse me?
Yes. For the children, for instance, in the course of doing this interview and the book, one of the daughters said to me that I asked the question, how do you know when you are in trouble with this man? And he says, the moment he says, young lady, she knows that there is wahala. One of the sons said, the moment BB says, and this is Tunde, I believe, the moment, ordinarily you call him Mr. T or this or that or something like that, the moment he calls him by his full name, just know that there is trouble and you can't wriggle out of it. You have to take your punishment and serve it out.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Dotun, for joining us on today's episode. You have been a fantastic guest, talking to us and telling us about who BB is and your personal encounter with him. Thank you so much. It's been an exciting time.
Thank you very much.
My name is Oluwatosin Ojebisi. I've been your host on The Movement Studio, and this is BB Uncovered. Thank you very much.